What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to College Football Talk with Peter Burtnett, bringing you my instant reaction to the most recent college football playoff rankings. I'll be going over a couple of thoughts that I have from week 2 of these rankings and giving a little bit maybe of an outlook for the future as well. But before I do, if you go and enjoy this video, please feel free to leave a like, consider subscribing to the channel, and turn on those post notifications so you're always up to date whenever I upload. But starting things out, let's just go over the order. In the number 1 spot is the Oregon Ducks. Coming in at number 2, the number 2 seed, the number 3 ranking is the Texas Longhorns. Coming in at number 3 seeded, number 6 in the rankings is BYU. Coming in at the 4 seed is Miami. They're at number 9 in the overall rankings. 5 seed is Ohio State. They're ranked 2nd behind Oregon. Obviously, the 1-point loss to the Ducks earlier this year. Number 6 is Penn State. From here, I'm just going to be going over the seeds rather than the overall ranking because it's kind of a one or 2 spot difference. Number 7, Indiana. Number 8, Tennessee. Number 9, Notre Dame. Number 10, Alabama. Number 11, Ole Miss. And number 12, Boise State. The big kicker here, what team is missing? They've been in the top 5 for the most part for the better part of the last 5 or so years, actually probably even longer than that. The Georgia Bulldogs, they're the first team left out of these rankings, I think deservedly so. Boise State comes in at number 13. Actually, they're ranked behind the Bulldogs, but because Boise State is the 5th highest ranked conference leader, I'm going to say, not conference champions yet, they go into the bracket ahead of the Bulldogs, even though the Bulldogs are in that top 12. So that's a big takeaway here is that Georgia is right now, if the playoffs started today, the Bulldogs would be out of the college football playoffs. So that's huge. I think, again, deservedly so. They're behind Ole Miss and Alabama, 2 teams that they lost to. I think the only argument they really could have is maybe Notre Dame being ranked lower and being ranked ahead of the Irish. But really, I think Notre Dame has really taken strides forward since that loss to NIU, so I think they're deserving of their spot as well. To me, the only big question out of these rankings is why is Miami still ahead of SMU? The Mustangs, there's a reason I have their picture up here on my left. Their only loss was to BYU, who's the number 6 team overall in the country and the number 3 seed, the leader currently in the Big 12. Meanwhile, Miami's loss this week was to Georgia Tech. I think SMU has a little bit of an easier schedule than Miami has had. Miami also has a ranked win over Louisville. But I think when I'm looking at these resumes, SMU deserves to be ranked higher. I think it's easy to just look at the brand and put the Hurricanes ahead of the Mustangs. SMU right now is the 2nd team out. That's kind of my only real question about these rankings. Another observation is BYU has some potential roadblocks against Kansas, who just beat Iowa State and really ruined the Cyclones' chances of getting to the college football playoff unless Colorado slips up and Iowa State can win the Big 12. And then at Arizona State, I shouted out Arizona State in my recap of the Week 11 action because the Sun Devils are tied for 3rd in the Big 12 at 4-2. They're 7-2 overall, so an incredible season. BYU moves up 2 spots because of Miami and Georgia's losses and an additional spot. So they moved up 3 spots in the rankings up to number 6. I think that's deservedly so. Indiana as well is up to number 5. I think that's deserved, and barring a loss by either Ohio State to Northwestern or Indiana, that'll be a top 5 showdown in Columbus in a couple of weeks, which will have plenty of eyeballs on that one, and that's a game I'm very much looking forward to watching. My only question for Indiana is why are they ranked behind Penn State? And I think it probably comes down to Penn State's strength of schedule and having a quality loss. However, I think if you're talking about a quality loss, the fact that Indiana doesn't have one at all means to me that I think that Indiana should be ahead of Penn State. Penn State came in at number 4 overall. Indiana was number 5, which, speaking of that, the Big Ten gets 4 of the top 5 teams in these rankings, the overall rankings, which is incredibly impressive. They are the most efficient conference, I would say. They might not be the best. The SEC is very deep, but I think the Big Ten is right on equal footing, and right now they're ahead of the SEC, at least in terms of their rankings. I think the SEC has 4 in the top 11, but not 4 in the top 5. So Those are kind of some of the takeaways. The matchups, as we're looking at it right now, would be Boise State at Ohio State, Ole Miss at Penn State, Alabama at Indiana, and Notre Dame at Tennessee. How about the possibility of the Indiana Hoosiers hosting a playoff game? Now, I will say, if they lose to Ohio State, they probably drop down into those, the teams that would be on the road, but it certainly is a good position for the Hoosiers to be in right now. But that is my rundown of the college football playoffs most recent rankings, my reaction to it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below if you agree on the points that I made, or if you have any observations or questions for the committee after these latest rankings. But coming up in a couple of days, later this week, I'll be previewing Week 12. But that's it for this episode of College Football Talk. I'm your host, Peter Burtnett, signing out. Peace.